People who do this fail because they are stubbornly stuck in their own heads. If they could just get around this, they could live up to their potential. This is why higher level thinking is essential for success. So we have been talking about nature and how we can learn from nature and what nature is going to show us and do. Thank you to everybody that is showing lots of love on Bigo, and I will get back to you all very, very shortly. So we have been reading from a 1.10, look at the machine from the higher level, and that is having a look at everything from a further perspective. So for example, think of yourself as a machine operating within a machine and know that you have the ability to alter your machine to produce better outcomes. So how to improve your systems of your life and of your business and all of those different things. And by comparing your outcomes with your goals, you can determine how to modify your machine. So again, looking at how to improve your own systems in life, how to get better and better at things by creating systems so you can do that. Distinguish between you as the designer of the machine and you as a worker with your machine, so separating yourself out. And today we're going to start with the biggest mistake most people make is not see themselves and others objectively, which leads them to bump into their own and others' weaknesses again and again. Let's get into it. So this is a very short one. The biggest mistake most people make is not see themselves and others objectively, which leads them to bump into their own and others' weaknesses again and again. People who do this fail because they are stubbornly stuck in their own heads. If they could just get around this, they could live up to their potential. This is why higher level thinking is essential for success. So it is important. I always like to look at things from other people's perspectives, when I can see things from other people's perspectives. And I shared a strategy yesterday where if two people are having conflict, I get them to, well, not the two people, but just one of the people, the one that I'm working with, I get them to imagine that conversation. And then I get them to imagine watching it from the side as if they're a spectator. And then I get them to imagine being the other person, going into that body and seeing it from the other person's perspective. And very often they'll see what it is that has irritated the other person or has upset the other person. And we don't realize that we do things to upset other people because we think we are perfect and we are doing the right thing all the time. And so we do irritate people, and there are small little things that we are doing in the same way that other people irritate us. We do the same things to other people. And then I get them to go to the other side and watch as a spectator one more time and then come back into their own bodies and redo the conversation, but make changes so that they're not upsetting the other person. And it is amazing what happens. So it is very important to be able to see what other people see in order to be able to then make those adjustments necessary. And it stops you from running into other people's weaknesses, because we have weaknesses, all of us. And so we need to realize that other people have weaknesses as well. Successful people are those who can go above themselves to see things objectively and manage those things to shape change. They can take in the perspectives of others instead of being trapped in their own heads with their own biases. They are able to look objectively at what they are like, their strengths and weaknesses, and what others are like to put the right people in the right roles to achieve their goals. Once you understand how to do this, you'll see there's virtually nothing you can't accomplish. You will just have to learn how to face your realities and use the full range of resources at your disposal. For example, if you, as the designer manager, discover that you as the worker can't do something well, you need to fire yourself as the worker and get a good replacement, while staying in the role of designer, manager of your own life. You shouldn't be upset if you find out that you're bad at something. You should be happy that you found out, because knowing that and dealing with it will improve your chances of getting what you want. It is so important to fire yourself for the things that you're not good at. Some people will say that it's really good to work on your weaknesses and get better. And I suppose there is a point to that to a certain degree. But when you find out that you are not good at something, there's only so much that you're going to be able to improve. And you would have to take a lot of time and effort to improve, like vastly. So there's probably more benefit to taking something that you are really good at and focusing on that and getting somebody else to do the thing that you're not good at. Now, I understand that when you are starting out in any endeavor, whether it's investing or business or whatever it might be, that you're not going to have the financial resources to get somebody else in to come and do that. So you might need to do it at the beginning for a while and see if you can improve your weakness to a certain degree. But once you start getting the ball rolling a little bit more, once that snowball starts getting bigger and bigger, then you need to start looking at other people that can do it even better than you, because otherwise you're going to get really, really stuck. And also stuck not just with the fact that you are working on a weakness that you don't like and that is causing you issues in that sense, but that is also now taking up more and more of your time when you really have other things that you need to be doing. So you need to know when to step back and start letting other people do what it is that you need to do. Now, some people will say, well, I can't do that because other people can't do it as well. Well, in this case, we're talking about weaknesses. But some people still might not be able to let go, even though it is a weakness. But if we can let go, I used to talk to my mother about something, and I would tell her that I would be happier if, instead of, say, having one business that earned 100,000 per year, that I had two businesses and they were both not doing as well because I wasn't the person running them. But let's say that each of those is now doing $75,000 each. So now I have two businesses. If I was running both of them, I would be a nervous wreck. But if I was running both of them, I could probably earn 200,000 and I would lose my health and I lose my sanity. But if I can get somebody else to run it, then I might be able to get them to run it to 75,000. But now I've got two. So 75,000 times two is 150,000. So we're earning an extra 50,000, even though it's not me running it, even though it's not as good as just the one would be, but it's still a better outcome. And yet most people would prefer to run it themselves for 100,000 than have two and have other people run them and earn a potential 150,000. And that always boggles my brain. But I think there's a lot of conditioning in how we are meant to think things work. And I think society pushes us into that direction to not see the things that are sometimes really blindingly obvious and that could create success for us. Sometimes it's almost as if you're not meant to achieve success based on what society wants for you. If you're disappointed because you can't be the best person to do everything yourself, you're terribly naive. Nobody can do everything well. Would you want to have Einstein on your basketball team? When he fails to dribble and shoot well, would you think badly of him? Should he feel humiliated? Imagine all the areas in which Einstein was incompetent, and imagine how hard he struggled to excel even in the areas in which he was the best in the world. Watching people struggle and having others watch you struggle can elicit all kinds of ego-driven emotions, such as sympathy, pity, embarrassment, anger, or defensiveness. You need to go over all that and stop seeing struggling as something negative. Most of life's greatest opportunities come out of moments of struggle. It's up to you to make the most of these tests of creativity and character. So I probably wouldn't want to have Einstein on my basketball team. It probably was basketball, but yeah, it would be very different to how it is now. So there's no point to getting upset with anybody for a weakness because we're all geniuses at something. Only we have decided as a society that what Einstein did, the physics and the understanding of science, was more important than, say, for example, a hotel cleaner who can do a really amazing job, who's a genius at cleaning hotel rooms, who can do it much faster than everybody else, who can make it more sparkly and even better than everybody else. But one is seen as something, wow, way up there, and the other is seen as something that is just ordinary. But I bet that there are most of you out there who would not be able to clean like some of the best hotel cleaners that you could imagine. Housekeepers are amazing. I've done it for a while when I studied hospitality. And let me tell you, I was not very good at cleaning. And yet there are people who can make it really clean and do it really fast. Whereas I did it, if I went fast, it was not a good job, trust me. And then with regards to the second thing, watching people struggle and others struggle can elicit kinds of ego-driven emotions. It is really important to realize that it is okay to struggle and that we are going to struggle and that there is not really an issue with that. And it is indeed true that our struggles often, if we allow them to, if we push past those struggles, then we can achieve greatness on the other side. But if we allow ourselves to be defeated by struggles, then obviously we're not going to learn anything from it at all. But sometimes some of the greatest struggles have led to some really amazing things. There was a time when South Africa was going through some really serious things, and a lot of the rich people left, and yet there was this one man who decided to stay because he loved his country, he loved the people, and he saw that there was really going to be some struggles with the electricity supply. So he started building generators to help the electricity supply along. And so he started creating this. He had the means to do it, obviously. And so he started creating this, and he ended up being able to become very, very successful because he was able to, one, provide power to people. They were able to then pay for it. And he was able to keep the country running when if everybody would have left, there would have been a loss of electricity totally. Like, he was able to prevent that from happening by going into the struggle rather than running away from the struggle. So I think that is very often the case with almost everything. We often run from struggle because we think it's a bad thing. Whereas really, if we face struggle and we go towards it, very often that is where we can get our biggest learnings and are able to then achieve really amazing things. When encountering your weaknesses, you have 4 choices. You can deny them, which is what most people do. You can accept them and work at them in order to try to convert them into strengths, which might or might not work depending on your ability to change. 3, you can accept your weaknesses and find ways around them. Or 4, you can change what you are going after. Which solution you choose will be critically important to the direction of your life. The worst path you can take is the first. Denial can only lead to your constant banging up against your weaknesses, having pain and not getting anywhere. The second, accepting your weaknesses while trying to turn them into strengths, is probably the best path if it works. But some things you will never be good at, and it takes a lot of time and effort to change. The best single clue as to whether you should go down this path is whether the thing you are trying to do is consistent with your nature, i.e. your natural abilities. The third path, accepting your weaknesses while trying to find ways around them, is the easiest and typically the most viable path, yet it is the one least followed. The fourth path, changing what you are going after, is also a great path, though it requires flexibility on your part to get past your preconceptions and enjoy the good fit when you find it. So yes, you need to know when to keep going and when to stop. So for some people, setting up a new electricity supply would not have been what they would have wanted to do. It wouldn't have been something that they could have been good at or enjoyed and all of those different things. And so it's okay for those people to leave. So we need to become very, very clear on what is our goal. And when we no longer feel that it's our goal, when our life destiny changes, we might want to change the goal. But if you are very, very adamant that it's a goal that you want and it stays that way and you are still hungry for it, then you can absolutely keep going for it. And that is what you need to do. So you need to know when to jump off and when not. I actually saw an interview with the husband of Emily Blunt and the man who is in the Office, the American Office, and I think his name was Jim in the show. Anyhow, so he was talking about the fact that he went to Hollywood and he wanted to become an actor, and he told his mum that he wanted to go and become an actor, and his mum said, "I want to support you." She said, "Go and do it for 2.5 years, and then if you change your mind, then you can always do that." And so rather than discourage him, his mother was very, very encouraging. And most parents wouldn't like the idea of their children going to become an actor, but she was very, very encouraging. So she sent him off. And about 2.5 years later, He discovered that he didn't like waiting tables while he was waiting for roles, and he wasn't getting the roles that he wanted, and he wasn't really achieving the things the way that he wanted to. And he was very, very frustrated, and he was ready to give up. But he'd waited his 2.5 years. So he calls his mum and he says to his mum, "Come and pick me up. I've had enough. I cannot stand this anymore. Please come and pick me up." And his mum said, "Give it just that little bit more." And so she convinced him to go on for a short amount of time more, I think a few more weeks. And 3 weeks later, he achieved the role of Jim on The Office. And the rest is history. He's done a lot of other different movies, and he's become extremely famous. And so you need to know when that dream is something that you want to keep pursuing. So he obviously didn't want to after 2.5 years, but he obviously still had some spark left to be able to keep going when his mother encouraged him to keep going for a little bit longer. And that is the struggle that Ray Dalio is talking about. That is when it becomes really challenging. But that is when he achieved his success. That's when he achieved his greatness. And it's in those moments of despair that you want to push harder if the goal is right. But if the goal isn't right, that's where you need to step away, because that's when it will not work that second time. That extra 3 weeks is not going to get you the result, because you never really wanted, or perhaps you did at the beginning, but you don't want that goal any longer. And it's okay to not want the same goal that you've always been going after, because things change. Some people get tattoos, and then years later, they're no longer interested in that thing. So I know for a fact that when I was in my 20s, there were certain things that really interested me, and I thought that were the bee's knees. And then you get to your 30s, and then you get to your 40s, and you think, wow, why was I excited by that? That thing just does not excite me anymore. And yet the tattoo is permanent, and that thing from your 20s that excited you so much may no longer be exciting to you at all. And so it's the same with goals. Things that excite you in your 20s may not excite you anymore in your 40s. So if you've been working towards something and it's no longer part of your peripheral or your interest or what you really, really want. So say, for example, you want to be a capitalist and you want to create this business, and you have been going after businesses that are not necessarily sustainable or environmentally friendly. And then over time, you start learning more about and get more interested in sustainability. Well, of course, you don't want to keep working on that goal in the way that you always have been. You want to start either adapting it, or you want to change the goal entirely if you want to go and work for a sustainability company, if you no longer feel the desire to become an entrepreneur. So you need to be very, very aware of what it is that you find important and what your goals are. And you have to, and it's really important to make sure that you do not delude yourself on this. Very often people will say, what would I do if I had, let's say, for example, $1 million deposited on my account? And some people would say I would donate it to charity, when in reality, they would go out and buy a Ferrari. We have to be honest with ourselves. The things that we want to do, they are there for a reason. And maybe buying that Ferrari will have a purpose, and it will cause you to be able to do something that then allows you to do the charity things. But there's no point to deluding yourself and saying that you want to give money to charity when you don't, when in reality you want to buy a Ferrari. And we have to be true to what is inside of us. I always believe that there's a purpose to what we feel and what we want to do inside of us. Okay, so we might leave it there for today, because we had lots of really interesting thoughts that came up that I wanted to share with you. So we will continue with part F tomorrow. I want to say thank you so much for joining today. I really appreciate everybody that's joined, and I saw lots of people on the Bigo. We've got Mladen on the Zoom. So it is really amazing having you all here today. I want to say thank you. And I also wanted to let you know that we do record these, and these are also available on YouTube. We also read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and The Art of Thinking Clearly. And obviously the beginning of Principles, if you missed that, is also there. You can find that at the Passive Cashflow Club. And we're also going to start, and we already have started, we're going to do more answering of questions of yours. So if you have any questions, if you're unsure about something that I mentioned in the book or something that I mentioned as my commentary, if you have a question around finance, wealth creation, passive income, all of those different kinds of things, feel free to send those through to my Instagram. You can find me at business_team_6_official. I would really love to hear from you because I see you all and I can see some small little messages, but I'd love to be able to properly connect and get to know you. So feel free to reach out on Instagram. Yeah, please do. And I would love to know what your questions are. And also, we are restarting our in-person cash flow games, and we also have our online games still running, which allow you to be able to understand business and real estate. And it is a great tool for you to be able to improve your investing. So all of those questions you have, this is a great way to then practice and implement what you've learned from those questions being answered. And we'd love to see you for one of those as well. So just mention Cashflow in the message you send to me, and I'll make sure that my VA sends you the information. My virtual assistant, she'll send you the information on how you can come and join us. And I would love to be able to meet more of you in person or online in person at a virtual game as well. Both have their benefits, and both are really amazing. The online version, we've taken to a whole new level and done some things that make it even more realistic than it otherwise would be. So once again, thank you so much for joining. Remember to make the switch to unlock your rich, because you need to make a switch to be able to get on that path to riches. And we're not just talking wealth, we're talking health, we're talking relationships, we're talking all sorts of different things. So have a great day today. I always really appreciate you all. I'm going to stop the recording, and then I'm going to go and say hello to everybody that joined on the Bigo. And I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow for another reading. And I'll see you then.